What's up, Steeler fans? Good morning. Good morning. This is Chris here with kind of my evaluation of where the AFC North is right now as a division with each of the four teams, and then also my prediction of today's tilt with the Steelers and the Raiders in Oakland here. I want to start in kind of reverse order of rankings in the division right now. I'll start with the Browns at 4-7-1 in fourth place in AFC North. Started off the year with Tyrod Taylor and Duke Johnson kind of being the guys in that offense, or what the Browns expected, or who the Browns expected to be the guys in that offense. Obviously now Baker coming on, Nick Chubb really emerging as the running back of the future, it seems like, for the Browns, and they're kind of more on the right track. The defense is really paying dividends with Myles Garrett, Jabril Peppers, Emmanuel Ogbah. I mean, those guys are really starting to come of age and pay dividends on those early draft picks these Browns have been racking up over the past couple years. These guys are 500 since firing Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley, which I just don't get. They've now won as many games with those guys in just a few weeks as they did in a season and a half, or without them, as they did in a season and a half with them. Not sure exactly what that says for Hugh and Haley, but obviously those were not the guys for the job. Good on the Browns for moving on and making a decision midstream and trying to right the ship a little bit. If they can't get Tony Dungy, here's what they need to do. If they can't get Tony Dungy to come off a retirement, they need to go after people like, for the offensive coordinator position, Byron Leftwich, I think, is really the guy who can help mold Baker Mayfield into the quarterback the Browns want him to be. And then at head coach, I know his locker is not even cold in Green Bay yet, but you got to take a look at Mike McCarthy and see if he's making any decisions, looking to join a new team or start a new dynasty there. If so, Cleveland can be the place for him. In the draft this coming year, I see them being the Browns, taking some offensive linemen. Obviously, they've done very, very well with the defensive picks over the past couple years. Baker Mayfield starting to pay dividends, Nick Chubb. So that offense is heading in the right direction. The only person I'm a little disappointed with this year is Njoku, the tight end. He's got to get it together a little bit, which I think he will as he builds a rapport with Baker Mayfield. For the rest of this year, I think they're going to go, or end the year, 5-10-1. I think they're going to lose most of the rest of these, but I think they're going to take one from the Bengals here in the next few weeks. Moving on to the Bengals in third place at 5-7 in the AFC North. They started the year expecting Marvin Lewis to really go out there and fight for his job and prove that he is the Bengals coach of the future. It just hasn't happened that way. It hasn't happened that way. I understand that they've been decimated by injuries, specifically losing A.J. Green and Andy Dalton. I feel kind of put the final nails in those guys' coffin for this season. But despite that, Marvin's got to find a way to get out there and win games. But more so, he's got to find a way to control that team. I just don't see him still having a tight leash on Vontaze Burfict. And I feel that Burfict honestly causes them games, specifically against the Steelers. Once he gets hyped up towards the end of the game, he's going to make an ugly play. It's going to result in a 15-yard penalty, and that's when we come back and win games against the Bengals with seconds left. They have to get to the bottom of that. This year, with the injuries they do have, you have to rely on Joe Mixon. I know he's a little banged up, but if he can get out there at all, he needs a game plan similar to a Le'Veon Bell to just get him 35 to 40 touches a game, whether it be by the ground or by the air. He's a great receiver coming out of the backfield, but at this point, you really have to rely on him to score some points for you and carry that team for the rest of this season. What they need to do, I honestly feel, is go ahead and move on from Marvin Lewis. It just hasn't really panned out the way it was supposed to in the past, I would say, 5 years. They've actually gone backwards a bit as far as their place or pecking order in the division and in the league in general. If they're going to do that, I think that new coach should have a new quarterback. I think if they're going to move on from Lewis, they've got to move on from Dalton as well. Trade him for some draft picks, kind of like the Browns did, and give this new coach a chance to get his system in there as soon as possible. For the rest of the season, I see them ending up 6-10, just one more win. Not sure who that's going to be. Probably going to be the Raiders, though, for this Bengals team. Third place, as always, second place as always. The Ravens, 7-5, breathing right down our necks with that record. They brought in RG3 this year, which was kind of interesting to make him kind of a mentor to Lamar Jackson. Right now, that's paying off. He's got kind of the hot hand there in Baltimore on a 3-game win streak. Gus Edwards is also paying dividends. Great pick for those guys. Someone who obviously later on in camp just impressed the right people and is out there performing very, very well for the team right now. And again, given the opportunity because of injuries that they had there in Baltimore. The defense still is what it is. They are who they are. It seems like it's almost impossible to rack up yards and points against these guys. That's a system that they've got and have had in place really since the Baltimore Ravens became a team. You just can't really crack that code with that guy. They're ranked number 1 in defense in both yards and points again this year. No big surprise there. Although the teams that they have beat recently, you got to face it, the 3-game win streak that they're on, combined, those 3 teams had 2 wins in the month of November. So if you're in Baltimore, don't get too excited about being on 3-game win streak. You're going to have to start playing real NFL teams here down the stretch. I don't see you being as dominant in these last 4 games here. What they need to do in Baltimore, I think, is find a way to keep Jackson on the field despite Flacco obviously probably coming back in the next couple weeks here. He's just so dynamic of a player and so hard to match up. You can see what he can do with his legs and just kind of the option and other threats he has against or on the ground. And also you see him scoring touchdowns on the ground. They being the Ravens, could create something similar to the Wildcat. When I say something similar to the Wildcat, just a gimmick that is going to take the rest of the league a while to catch up on. By them having 2 quarterbacks on the field, that second quarterback being Jackson, it just adds a dimension that no one else in the NFL really has right now. And to kind of take you Steelers fans back a little bit, when you think about guys like what Hines Ward brought to the table, what Antoine Randall L brought to the table, and their different dimensions, being able to throw, being able to catch, being able to pass, being able to block downfield, all these things kind of helped out the team, and those are what I'm seeing or would like to see Jackson do to stay on the field this season for the Ravens. In this coming draft, what I see the Ravens picking up, I think that they really miss and really need that receiving tight end. You think guys like Todd Heap and what he did for the Ravens over the past, or when he was in his glory there, definitely see them going after that receiving tight end. And I think they're going to start to replace some of the older guys, the Suggs and the Weddles of the world. They're both getting up there in age. If you want to have someone train under them for maybe a season, you got to pick them up this draft. My prediction for the Ravens, I think they're going to go 9-7 and split their last 4 games. I think they're probably going to beat up on the Bucs and the Browns, and I think the Chiefs and the Chargers are going to get the best of the Ravens. Moving on to the number 1 Steelers. 7-4-1 this season. Obviously, that one coming against the Browns first game scared the hell out of all of us, but we kind of turned it around since then. So for this season, the biggest story has been and still continues to be, we survived that distraction with Le'Veon Bell and really discovered what Conner is all about, what James Conner can do for the Steelers and do in the NFL. And I speak, I believe, for the entire Steelers nation, saying we're more than happy with what we've seen in James Conner. Great kid, great performer. 12 touchdowns this season so far. I mean, that's just amazing for someone who had so many questions coming into the season. Was really looked at as a downgrade to Bell. So congrats to him for being able to shake that off and not let that get to his head and really go out there and perform this year. The one thing about the Steelers I've seen this year that I haven't seen in years past that I don't like is that no rookies, especially on the offensive side, are really standing out this year. In my opinion, the best rookie performance I've seen so far is going to be Terrell Edmonds on defense and on special teams. Like I said, I talked bad about him before the season started, but I absolutely love what I've seen from him. He's always getting his nose in there. If you're watching the games live, at the end of every play, he's in the screen, meaning he was either in the play or that close to it every single down. Love what I'm seeing from him. And also from Coach Tomlin, being able to find guys to plug in during whatever it was what they had with Bell or any injuries, or just dealing with distractions on the team, it's not easy. It's not easy to have someone like Brown on your team who's just a media frenzy waiting to happen. He's in music videos. You have someone like James Conner who's just an overnight star as well. You got someone like Ben Roethlisberger, who we all know has a gold jacket waiting for him somewhere in Canton, Ohio. But being able to deal with those distractions and keep the team moving in a positive direction, tip my hat to Coach Tomlin there. Another thing I've seen this year I don't really like, Chris Boswell seems to have gone backwards as well as Artie Burns. Both of those guys I feel totally lost their way in this season. They've got to get back to playing the football they did last year and 2 years ago. What the Steelers are going to need to do this year to really get in, make a play down the stretch, we need more consistent pass defense, and we need to start getting the ball down the field. I think Juju Schuster and Brown both are waiting to get those 40-yard bombs that they're used to getting from Ben. Ben's got them. I'm not sure why we haven't seen as much this year. Maybe it's Randy Fisher's way of kind of keeping the offense fresh. Maybe he's not a go down the field type of guy, but we really need to see that towards the end of the season here. That's kind of the Steelers' bread and butter, especially in these close games. That big splash play is what I'm expecting today against the Raiders. This year in the draft, I think we're going to go after an inside linebacker first. I just don't feel like we've totally gotten over the loss of Ryan Shazier yet. You can just see where, had he been on the field a few of these games, probably would have turned out different this year. His athleticism at that position was just unmatched. And to lose someone like that, it takes a little while to recoup that position. My season prediction is going to be 10-5-1 for the Steelers. I think we're going to pull out another 3 more. We're going to take 1 loss. That 1 loss, I'm not sure if that's going to be to the Pats or to the Saints, but I can tell you it's going to be to one of them if we are going to lose. So that brings me to today's game against the Raiders. I'll start with the end. I think this is going to end up 31-23 for the Steelers. I think that we're going to outclass the Raiders today, especially if Doug Martin's on the field. It's going to be a much longer day for Carr. I just don't see him lasting down a stretch. Maybe Carr has a few good plays early on, but I don't see that Raiders offense of scoring much in the second half once the Steelers make certain adjustments, and or if the Steelers jump on them early and get that early lead of at least, let's call it 2 scores out there in Oakland today. I think that you are going to see Ben go down the field and try to get that splash play early on. Your 30, 40, 50-yard bombs down the field is what I expect to see. So there you have it. Please let me know what you think. Hope you're watching the games. Last quarter of the season, last 4 games is what it all comes down to. Pretty soon you're going to start seeing these scenarios on who's in, who's out, who's mathematically still in it for the playoffs. You're going to see the Steelers in that picture. You're going to see the Ravens in that picture. So it's going to be a pretty interesting photo finish again with at least the Steelers and one other AFC North team. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the Bengals this year. So I'll sign off as I have this season. That's for the Bengals. That's for the Steelers. Have a good day.